can I say?
You going to that one, right?
When we open our eyes today and look around America,
1 2 1 2.
not through the eyes of someone
Yeah.
who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism, we see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
And I'm not afraid to say it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are listening to Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show every Sunday 6 to 8 on InTheMixRadio.com. I'm your host, A.J. Woodson. Damon K. Jones a little under the weather, so he will not be here today. We do got my man, Bob Baskerville, Dr. Bob in the house. And the lovely Lorraine Lopez will not be here today. She up in that Brewster area. She's still without power. Yo, I do want to I want to get into that. Like when we had the Nor'easters back in January, both Con Ed and NYSCG did a horrible job in the response to getting back our electricity and the power and everything back on. I know people like my homegirl Caitlin Gleason and over on almost in the Fleetwood area, they was without power for like I think 8-10 days or something crazy like that in Mount Vernon, and there was people that was without power for even longer than that. But up in Brewster, Con Ed did a little bit better job this time, but the NYSCG, I'm giving them a F-. Once again, this is the third time this year they have failed in proper response to restoring power. And up in Brewster where Lorraine is, man, they showed the pictures. The trees was down. Almost every major tree, big tree was down. You couldn't get down the streets. If somebody on her block needed medical assistance, the ambulance wouldn't have been able to get to her block. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Not just her street, the streets going into her street. You wouldn't even they'd had to like take the thing and walk a few blocks to get to somebody or something. They cleared a lot of that up, and some of them people got power, but she still don't got power or water. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of crazy. So NYSCG need to get their act together for real. I know Latimer, County Executive Latimer called for the resignation of the top of both Con Ed and NYSCG back in January. And I know officials up that way are calling for the head of the NYSCG again. I mean, you know, there's just... They got to do a better job. I mean, that's what they do. Not asking them to do nothing outside of what they do. When the Nor'easters came in January, everybody knew they were coming. And the weather was, we were warned that it was coming. We had this major lightning storm last Tuesday. I mean, they talked about it before it happened. It wasn't like it just happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. And they wasn't prepared. So, anyway, that's my little vent. And why SCG gets an F-. Well, and they need to do a better job. Yeah.
Yeah, let me add, I mean, I share your frustrations because actually one of my good friends' mother also had problems, who lives in the city of Mount Vernon, also had problems with her.
This week or back in January?
No, originally in January, okay. But still just generally slow service, unprepared for the emergency. And I think that something that all of us need to consider as we evaluate the efficiency of our municipal services is that all indications are that our climate system is becoming more erratic, more violent. We're going to have more extreme weather events. And really what we're seeing now is really going to become the new normal unless humanity is able to forestall the disaster that we seem headed for, because we don't want to find alternatives to carbon fuels. So it's really to say is that these companies need to get their act together, because this is going to be expected with every new hurricane season.
and y'all have a monopoly. Like, it's not even like, if you're not content with the services, you can go to the next company. They have a monopoly. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to run that area and you're going to be the only one, then you got to hold it down. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to have to prepare. And the reason I say, I'm saying more now, we just went through this in January. This is the third time this year. Right. It's only May. You know what I'm saying? Like,
we're getting ready to head into hurricane season right now.
Right. We're not even in hurricane season.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, y'all got to do a better job for real. Or y'all got to make room and let somebody else come in there and you know what I'm saying? You can't have a monopoly and you don't do the job. Like, that's
right. And I mean, it also should be pointed out that a utility has a special status as a corporation because they provide vital services, and the legislators have given them this kind of advantageous monopoly. And in return, they are supposed to make taking care of the public good one of their top priorities, and they clearly fumble the ball. So, I agree with you, and and all of the critics.
I want to give Lorraine Lopez a shout out. She's listening on her phone probably. Your real talk though, it's like, and she just called just before the show, and then shout to her neighbor. It was like her neighbor just came by and brought her some one of them big battery, them big them flashlights with the big long pole. Take about 4 or 6 D batteries and a lantern that's battery operated, and some dog food for the dogs, and some water, something. Just came by and just dropped that off, and she needed all that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
and it's
wonderful.
like, so thanks to the neighbors that are actually looking out, because she live in a predominantly white area, and when it first happened, all our white neighbors were sitting there walking around each other, checking on each other, and she's the only single female on the block, and ain't nobody come check on her. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was kind of like a punk. That's kind of crazy. So anyway, shout out to her. She thugging it out. She's surviving. Her and her 4 dogs.
Shout out to Lorraine Lopez.
No doubt. Shout out to everybody on the check-in. Oscar Davis Jr. just checked in. Wayne Robinson, my cousin in New York City, just checked in. Glenn Butler. Anthony Old School Mitchell. It was good to see. He had a birthday party earlier this week. We all popped up and celebrated his birthday up at Maggie's or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely good to hang out with
It
Mitch.
was good to see him back in town. Uncle Frank just tuned in.
Uncle
Trujillo. Who else? Brenda L. Crump. I think she's still in Texas. She's in there. Jonathan Newton, who was going to be our guest today, will be in next week because Damon's not here. So shout out to Jonathan. He said, do your thing. Anthony Old School Mitchell said, what's up, people before politics? Had a good time on my born day. Thanks. Definitely. Shout out to Omi Medina, always tuned in
the house.
Word up. Let's see. Cynthia Turnquest Jones is in the house, tuned in. Shout out to her, former co-host of People Before Politics. And she's something's coming up soon that she's going to be speaking at. I think it's something that Nesta Felix is doing next Flex or something. I think it's some is it the pageant thing she's doing? I'm not sure, Cynthia. What is it? You're gonna
give us?
I know you're gonna be speaking somewhere because I just seen your name. But shout out to you. Shout out to Nesta Felix, who does a thing, and Anthony Old School Mitchell spoke to the kids for the after school hoops program that New Flex has, and that's gonna be one of the.
Oh yeah, hold on. Speaking of which,
okay.
Just to bring it all together, we got to give a shout out to Nesta.
Oh, absolutely.
Because yeah. Because it was karaoke night, and Nesta did a
the Lauryn Hill joint.
She did the Lauryn Hill joint, and then she closed out with a freestyle.
Oh yeah, she killed it.
She killed it. Word up. You know what I mean? We didn't
I
realize
know she had it in her. She was like, and she was performing the song like it was her song. Like she killed it. Like, I was like, it looked like less karaoke in a performance. Like she did her thing. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Nesta. Anybody, I don't know if she's tuned in, but anybody who see her, tell her we shouted her out because she did her thing. But the freestyle at the end, and then she was shouting us out, like in between, she shouted out Black Westchester, she shouted out Anthony Old School Mitchell. And then, she was doing the little shout outs. And, she killed it. She killed it. For real.
That was hot. We had fun. Yo, gotta give a shout out to my man Frank Trulio. Frank, what's up, baby? How are you today, man?
Okay, so it is right. So Cynthia will be hosting the pageant. It's the hair pageant. I gotta look for the actual email. I'll look for it. But it's coming up soon. Her and Caitlin Gleason are hosting it.
Wonderful.
And see if I can find Nesta. Here it goes. Here's Nesta's instant message from earlier. And it is the, hold up, she had a lot of words here. Okay, New Flex Youth Programs proudly presents the Hair Show Princess Pageant 2018, and the theme is Role Model Runway at the Dole Center, Saturday, June 16th. Performance, dance, talent, fashion show. It will be hosted by People for Politics, radio personality, blogger, community leader, an educator, and I must add, activist, Cynthia Turnquest Jones, and library trustee Caitlin Gleason. Anywhere you want. And the man with the plan, they call him the money man. Rashad just walked in. Bilal just walked in the building. It's been a minute. Now I want to change all tones. This is the first time I got a chance to talk to you. Yo, dude, every time I look on Facebook, yo, I see you back from your world tour. Like, yo, he's like, you taking pictures in Dubai and wherever and all over. Yo, straight world tour. Like, yo.
Word.
Yeah. So shout out to you.
Hey.
Word up.
Glad to be black. Glad to be back. Got to be back.
No doubt. I thought we would see you yesterday. Oh, yeah, yesterday. Shout out to the Westchester County Valhalla, the correction officers. They had a basketball tournament, and the Westchester County. Right? Yeah, Woodlands. Yeah. And the Westchester County Jacks did their thing. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Valhalla, held it down because they beat Downstate first, and then they had to play Sing Sing, and I believe they won. I left before that game. But I think from all the comments, I think they won it all. So
I didn't even know until I saw Damon that posted on Instagram.
Yeah. So it was, they did. But the first game they slayed Downstate though, and Sing Sing slayed Bedford. It was like 5 minutes into the game, and dude got fouled, and he made the foul shot. It was like Bedford's finally on the scoreboard. I was like, damn, for real? I was like, wow. Yo, Tri-State Jericho was the DJ, and he was having fun. He was like, oh, they're coming back. They had like 3 points. He's like, they're coming back. Yo, but it was a good time. Sing Sing represented. The people that was down with them, I've seen so many daggone Sing Sing's T-shirts. Like, Sing Sing was representing hard. Word up. So shout out to everybody who came out. I mean, even the ones that came out, it was still a great time. You know what I'm saying? It was good. And I think that was their first one, and it's going to be annual, and the gym was full. Then they had food on the other side. Cupcake Cutie made a big cake. I took pictures of that joint.
That's dope.
And they had cupcakes for everybody, to get. So it was good. And whoever fried the fish, everybody was shouting him out. He did his thing. Like when he was done, and people was like, "Yo, any more fish? Any more fish? Any more fish?" Yo, the fish was gone. Like, yo, so, but and he was frying it like right outside the cafeteria area, like outside. You know what I'm saying, and bringing it in. But yeah. So shout out to everybody who came to that. That was a beautiful thing. We hosted. Councilman Andrew Wallace hosted the Cupcake Cutie, and Westchester Corrections Association, a few other groups. So yeah, back to you and your world tour. That's what I want to talk about. So what's going on, man? Was that vacation? Was it work? Was it what?
Yeah, I just wanted to get away. Well, I've been wanting to do that for a while actually, and just the stars aligned, and just I had enough time, and it was just perfect timing. So I wanted to take advantage of it. So yeah, I went to Asia for a month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Yeah, I was in 5 countries.
Yeah, I just saw the pictures, and you was chilling. It was chilling, like, yo. It seemed like a lot more than 5 countries, though. It was like, yo.
Yeah, it was a great experience, man, just to travel outside the country and just to see, how other people live, other cultures.
Right.
What countries did you go to?
I went to Thailand. I went to Singapore. I went to Bali. I went to Philippines and Hong Kong.
Okay. I don't know why I said Dubai, but I was like, yo, it seemed like it was everywhere, for real.
Yeah. So it was a great experience, and like I said, just to interact with the people. Everybody was really nice. Extremely went out their way to make me feel comfortable everywhere we went. So it was great. I enjoyed myself a lot.
So he's gonna give you some financial tips later, and he's gonna show you what the importance of putting them dollars up so you can take trips like that. Because I can't afford one of those. I'm gonna have to talk to you. I'll put some money up since I can take a trip like that. But nah, it was a beautiful thing. Shout Lorraine Lopez said thanks for all the support. The shit is crazy. Very grateful to the neighbor lady from down the street. Hopefully be back next week. Love you guys. And very happy birthday to Omi. Oh, happy birthday to Omi. And again, happy birthday to Anthony Old School Mitchell. Word up. So wanted to get all that in. Any more comments? Cynthia says shout to the girls and moms from Mount Vernon who attended the Let Girls Learn Day at Mount Vernon Live. Yeah, I want to speak about that too. So I think she got unfair. I didn't say much here at the show, but after we had the meeting of the library trustees, there was a little verbal confrontation. Seems like two of the other candidates were trying to say that the board unfairly let her have her event the week of the election and gave her unfair advantage when I think it was scheduled way before that. And they were trying to make it look like there was some corruption going on. And they put that out, and Cynthia wasn't one of the three that won. I was very surprised about that.
Oh, okay. So they already voted.
They did. The vote was we just had the school board on the 15th, so it was the 8th. It was the 8th, Tuesday the 8th, and then we had school board on the 15th. Okay. So yeah. So I was very disappointed in anybody who fell for that. You know what I'm saying? I think that was a punk move, and I'm glad that the people who did it, they didn't win either. So you know what I'm saying? So you know what I mean? But I hope that Cynthia still stays involved. You know, she's somebody like Brenda, who is always involved, even if she doesn't have the title. Like Brenda's involved with the school board, even though she's no longer a trustee. Yeah. She is more active than several of the trustees, current and present, past and present. You know what I'm saying? She's more involved than most of them. And she don't need a title. And she's also involved in City Hall. And, you know what I'm saying? So Cynthia's like that, too, without a title. She's there. She's involved. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I hope you don't let that get you down, Cynthia. You know, we got your back. You know what I'm saying? And I understand if you say you ain't never going to run again, but, it would be a loss to the library if you never did, if you don't.
I'm surprised they still even have libraries, honestly. That seems like that's going to be obsolete in a couple of years.
Well, yeah, they were trying to do some kind of e-library thing, I know. Yeah. And she was also talking about some program that has to do. You have to watch the show. It had to do with like hearing the book instead of reading the book and
audio book.
No, but there's a program where iReady or something like it's called something like that. And I don't want to say the wrong name, but if you watch back the show, she talked a lot about that program, and I think that's something very good. You know what I'm saying? So shout to Cynthia. Word up. Oscar Davis said she will stay involved. Oscar Davis is the present Mount Vernon Library school board president, and he won overwhelmingly. He was the top vote getter in the election.
And who were the other two?
So the other two that won, I think number 2 in the votes was Judy Williams, who's involved with the music school, who you hear us talk a lot about. And the third was the young man, Malcolm Clark.
Yes,
who had got a lot of good feedback from Max and some of the people that were watching the show. Oh, shout to Max, too, Westchester County Corrections.
Definitely. Shout to Max.
Shout out to him. I think I got all the shout-outs. I got all the comments. Everybody who's watching. Let me see if I left anybody out. Nope, that's it. Bob, what would you like? Oh, so let's go. We're gonna talk about Mount Vernon real quick. We have a guest coming a little later. Derek Lawrenson. He's running for the 16th District Congress against Elliot Engel and another contender in the Democratic ticket, Jonathan Lewis. So it's like a 3-way race, but the other two are big spenders, and Derek's not. They're outspending him, let's just say. So he's coming to I guess, present his case on why you should vote for him and all that. But also in Mount Vernon, we have Mayor Thomas has been in the news a lot lately. And I'm not here to just sit there and roast him right now, but he generates enough news right now. He needs his own news network. So, he was indicted on the 12th he was arrested and arraigned on the 12th by the AG's office. And then last week, he wrote, since then, Attorney General Snyderman had to resign. He resigned, even though he said he's not guilty of the accusations, but it was going to be a distraction to the office, so he resigned. So then Mayor Thomas sent out a letter, actually a lawsuit trying to block the investigation, saying that the acting Attorney General does not have the authority to investigate him. So I guess she wanted to prove she did. So 2 days later, he was indicted by the grand jury. So his case is coming up Friday, May 25th. He will be arraigned in Westchester County Court.
And what is this for again?
This is for campaign corruption, grand larceny charges. As the AG, as Snyderman phrased it, using the campaign funds as his own slush fund, paying his car note, supposedly paying rent, mortgage or whatever on the house, buying his wife a $2,000 Chanel purse. I think they took a trip to, Mexico or somewhere or something, and he wrote off
a dinner
at Bubba Gump's, but they're saying Mexico, he tried to make it sound like it was the one in the city, and that it was it was for the volunteers of his campaign, and it was his family in Mexico. So it was just a bunch of stuff like that. And then the grand jury indictment last week, they added a couple more charges on top of that. So several of them are felonies, and from different reports, he could receive up to 4 or 7 years. But he I have to say, he continues to say that he is innocent, and he will prove it in court. And I will say that in this country, you are innocent until proven guilty, even though a lot of people have him convicted already, and already have him out of office. I will say though, it's funny because his whole administration, even though he was in the office a year earlier, it kind of mirrors what we're facing on the national level. Like, I'm like, it's just between Trump and him, it's like it's a mirror. Like the same stories, it's just one is local and one is national, but it's just like kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, so I mean, what's unfortunate? The whole thing, if he's found guilty of these things, there was a group of people that had lost hope, and he was a beacon of hope for those people. And when you give people who lost hope, and then you don't deliver, it has the reverse effect. Like, some of the people ain't never voted in a long time, but they voted for change. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And now they see what's happening, and they're not happy, and they some of them are saying they ain't never gonna vote again. See, my vote don't matter. So hopefully that won't be the case, and y'all come out and vote, and don't let one thing stop you from voting, because it's very important. The more people that vote, the elections are very. I mean, what are we getting 10, 20,000 people in the elections or something, and we got 70,000 people in the city. I mean, we're getting a very small percentage of the vote, of those who can vote voting.
Yeah.
And some people just won't. A lot of them are millennials. A lot of them are first-time voters. A lot of them, there's old people just like, yo, my vote don't count. They do what they want to do anyway. So,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Even on the national level, they feel that, because a lot of people said they didn't vote for Trump, but that's what we have in here. So, yeah.
Yeah,
I know Bob got something to say.
I mean, I wanted to echo. I don't think this is pile on Mayor Thomas week, but I share your profound disappointment in the mayor's record thus far, and I want to point out that even though everyone is entitled to their day in court and should be considered innocent until proven guilty, one thing that I certainly have concluded that the mayor is guilty of is lack of good judgment and a failure to adhere to the cardinal rule that's supposed to be followed by all leaders, and that is to not only avoid improprieties but avoid the appearance of improprieties. And almost from the day that Mayor Thomas walked into office, his administration has been deviled by a number of problems that have left many of his former supporters, myself included, absolutely stunned, totally disappointed. I think now that, well, the mayor, I think we've seen another piece of evidence in his poor judgment in his decision to file a suit challenging the authority of the acting attorney general to bring charges against him. I mean, ours is a country that is supposed to be characterized by the rule of law, and the law operates irrespective.
Well, I just want to say one thing everybody has said, from, I don't care if they're black, white, rich, poor, who the hell is advising him? That is like the number one question I get when they hear, AJ, who's advising him? That's the number one question I get now.
I mean, honestly, and I the conclusion that I have come to, based on Mayor Thomas's announced, preference for leadership, one is Joseph Spezio, and another leader has to be Jerry Kremer. And I think between the two of them, they have been more interested in trying to, machinations, financial machinations.
Okay. Now,
machinations, secret tricks.
I was going to say, the average person, what the hell is that?
A machination is a secret trick. And as far as I'm concerned, Joe Spezio's intention all along has been to try to find a way to take advantage of the mayor's administration so that he can fleece the city of valuable municipal services, money that's made from valuable municipal services like the the carding business that he has. And in addition to that, I sincerely suspect, although I must confess that I have no evidence for this, that there are very powerful forces aligned with Joseph Spezio and Jerry Kremer, whose main intention was to try to do a land grab so that they could lead a very lucrative redevelopment effort in the city of Mount Vernon that was largely line their pockets and get rid of all of Mount Vernon's poor people and just send them packing someplace else.
They got a couple of people. Shout to Larry Fair in the Future Society.
Shout out to Larry Fair.
And he has just posted that the judge has ruled that Larry Fair's case has enough evidence to move forward. So that will be another case coming up. And I did want to mention, Cynthia made a good point, and I totally agree. The list, as the Mount Vernon voter list, and maybe Westchester, but definitely Mount Vernon, needs to be updated. There are dead people still on the voting list. And I'm not talking about people that died last year. Some people 10 years ago.
Yeah, there's people on the Westchester County voting list who died in the end of the 19th century.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was that bad, but
it is that bad. I don't know why they do that.
Well, shout out to a couple of people in the house. Reginald Lafayette, who's the Westchester.
Well, we can ask. Matter of fact,
and the Mount Vernon City Care.
Commissioner Lafayette. Can you please explain to, maybe you'll have an opportunity to explain to listeners why it is that we have deceased people on the voting list, despite the fact that there's lots of concern that this is, raises the possibility, increases the likelihood of voter fraud.
Shout out to Ray D. Copeland. Shout out to James Cook. At the Future Society, I said them already.
Definitely shout out to Ray, Uncle Ray.
Anybody who's following me on Facebook, this is being broadcasted live. And shout out to Brenda Crump, who everything that we have spoke, she has posted links so you can read the stories for yourself and not just take my word for it. And shout out to Nadine Hunt Robinson, the councilwoman from White Plains. She just tuned in. And also this week, Brenda just shared with me that I forgot, the Mount Vernon public relation firm quit. Mount Vernon's public relation firm quit, citing troubles with working with the mayor. So that was another situation. And for people that, if you saw the press conference where the mayor had been arrested in the rain, the white gentleman who came out, Brian Finnegan, is the publicist, and their firm quit. I know there was some concern because they tried to hire him as Mount Vernon's as a PR person for Mount Vernon, but he was working personally. He was doing work personally for the mayor, and I think the controller refused to pay him on that. You know, a lot of the work was just personal for the mayor, not for the city of Mount Vernon, even though he was being hired as Mount Vernon's public relation person. But his firm announced Thursday it ended his account with the city of Mount Vernon because of differences with Mayor Thomas that were too great to bridge.
We can only imagine what that would be.
And they said the firm is not on the same page with the city and the mayor's office and will provide no further communication consultant. Brian Finnegan, who I just spoke of, who's the chief of staff of Todd Shapiro Associates, and they said that in a statement. So then there was some debate on whether they had been paid, and they said they were, and some people said they weren't. So I won't even get into all that, but that also made the news. That's the Lower Hood article, and Brenda also shared that in the comment section, so you can read that for yourself.
And I applaud the comptroller and other members of the city government that have concluded that the purpose of hiring an outside press agent is not, to primarily serve as a spokesman for Richard, for Mayor Thomas.
I did say that the Board of Estimates voted it down 2-1. The Board of Estimates being Council President Lisa Copeland, Mayor Richard Thomas, and the controller, Deborah Reynolds. And it said even when Andre Wallace stepped in as the acting council president, he also voted against it. So all of them voted against it. And it says that, it mentions all that in the article.
Greatly so. I mean, we have yet to do a story that does a full tabulation of the legal and other administrative expenses that the city has accrued as a result of Mayor Thomas's, ill-advised court battles against his enemies within his adversaries within the city government, or now that he has to defend himself in a criminal court, possible cost for attorneys. But it is inappropriate for the city to be footing the tab for the mayor for these matters, especially some of the crimes that the mayor is accused of committing are not in his capacity as a city official, but rather in his capacity as a candidate for office, and it's those are not issues that are to be covered by the city.
And that's a point that he made when the charges were filed. Excuse me. This was not in his capacity as mayor. This has nothing to do with his work as he's been mayor. Well, this was leading up to him being, this was before he was mayor. So, I mean, your point is...
But that's not quite correct, though, because Mayor Thomas is accused of filing a false instrument when he submitted inaccurate financial disclosure forms.
Well, the inaugural, even though it was before the swearing in, was after November, after he won the election. So I don't know where you're great. I don't know what the area, I have to talk to somebody legal what that is, but...
No, but let's be clear.
You're mayor-elect or whatever.
No, every year, though, the mayor's accused of filing a false financial disclosure form with the city of Mount Vernon.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the false instruments, or one of the instruments that he allegedly filed falsely, and that's the one where the dispute over whether or not he received $100,000 from Amani Charter School. But that document itself has been the subject of legal inquiry.
And unfortunately, we never got to hear more about that because we invited Deborah Stern, who's vice president of Amani, to appear on the show. And even though she agreed, she did not show that day. So I wanted to give, another side of it, but we didn't get a chance to present that. So,
well, we as you said, the arraignment is going to take place this upcoming Friday, May 25th, and I encourage
9:30 a.m. room 303, White Plains Courthouse.
And I encourage anyone who's interested in getting an independent assessment of the mayor's behavior and wants to follow the trial to make it to the first hearing.
And I understand everybody needs to go out this week to the Mount Vernon City Council meeting. A couple of things are going to be discussed, I'm being told. So, and I just wanted to add, and we're going to leave it there, one of the biggest things that people are asking story-wise and I'm gonna have to. I haven't, with me being in the hospital and everything got pushed back. But people are wondering how many outside counsel have we had since Mayor Thomas has been in office, and how much money has been spent on outside counsel. And I'm going to eventually get to that. It's been a minute for me, haven't had a chance to, but that is something I am going to follow up on. Oh yeah, and just when you thought it was safe to stop talking about Mount Vernon, something else did happen. DPW Commissioner Joe Negro handed in his resignation recently, and the Planning Commissioner handed in her resignation as well, because she wasn't being paid. I don't know what that whole thing was. Her insurance or something wasn't being paid or something, and she handed in her resignation as well. So, and then Curtis Wood is still playing musical chairs. He was moved from one office to the next again. So, because he was let go of one of those departments before. So,
I mean, it's absolute chaos, and the continuous turnover in executive personnel is not good for the city.
Again, mirroring the Trump administration.
Absolutely.
Because I think they just said Trump has officially gotten rid of everyone in his original cabinet.
Everybody?
I think with the last one or two people that left, the original cabinet is now officially gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's nobody that was there from the beginning. Like, no. Yeah. I can't say it's that extreme with the Thomas administration, but many of the originals, Robert Kelly, a lot of the people are not there anymore. And in some cases, the people that took their place are not there anymore either. So there's been a couple of different moves. So last, I just wanted I wanted to shout Cynthia, because we was talking about her Let Girls Learn. Her next one that she's going to do will be in Belize, Central America. So shout to Cynthia for continually doing what she does.
Now, you ain't the only international traveler on the team.
So,
That's great.
Cynthia says she keep her dual citizenship. She said because when it's crazy, she keep her passport with her. She jumping on the plane and leaving here. She getting out of here.
It is unfortunate.
She keeps her passport on her because she's like, it's crazy. One day, she used to say that on the show all the time. She said, one day I'm leaving y'all, and I'm just I'm getting on the plane. I'm not coming back. Yo, for real. Word up. So shout out to everybody who's tuned in. Kiera Snow, I think from Chicago. Thank you for tuning in.
Were we worldwide like that? Or at least nationwide?
Nationwide. Well, that's the beautiful thing about the internet, because, anybody can tune in. And then with the Facebook Live, all your people from Facebook, no matter where they at, can tune in, even worldwide. So a lot of people, like Brenda's, tuning in from Texas. So, So what else is good? Did I cover everything in the last week or so? Because we missed, belated Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
Definitely.
We took off last Sunday so everyone could spend time with their children or their mothers or their family. So
right.
Yeah,
and I just needed a break, so I did not have no problem with that. So
Happy Mother's Day.
Oh, and we did a Mother's Day tribute in Black Westchester. Did you ever get a copy of the paper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I wrote a tribute. It was a tribute that took me 4 years to write. To my mom. My mom passed in 2014. Mm-hmm. So it took me 4 years to be able to share what I shared. And basically, I came back up here 2014, take care of my mom. And during that time, Damon hit me with the idea of Black Westchester. So at my mom's bedside, I was actually designing the layout for the website and planning the foundation of what became Black Westchester. So my mother, who was one who always was into making her community better and helping her community and was kind of an activist in her own right, I felt like when she passed, she passed the baton to me. So that's what drives me now. So I dedicated, we got our upcoming four-year anniversary to my mom. And then I shared a poem that I wrote for her for that Mother's Day, because she was always one of those, give me my flowers while I'm alive. Yeah. So it was, dear Mama, I will always love you, and I shared that poem. Then we had a couple of people that's with Black West just to share a little something about their moms, and Rashad, Damon, Lorraine, and her sisters, and Yasmin. Who does the...
Rashad?
That's me.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying.
Did I say? I didn't say Rashad?
You did.
Oh, okay, because I said
No,
your name wrong.
you said it like it wasn't him, though.
Oh, no. But I
I
pointed to him. I'm saying. So,
Oh, okay.
So Lorraine Lopez and her sisters and Yasmin, who does the Single Mom Chronicle column in Black Westchester, all shared, a picture of them and their mom and a couple of words and stuff. So, yeah. So you look for that, and also in June, which is going to be Black Music Month, or as Obama renamed it, African American Music Appreciation Month, is also Father's Day, and we will be doing the celebration of Black fathers, and we will be doing something to debunk some of the myths of the missing Black father. And it was funny, I was just telling Bob, some of my research I found, when they calculate how many households don't have a father, there's a lot of single women who have children who the father doesn't live with them, but is very active in the kid's life. Yeah. That they're not tabulated. Right. They're tabulated as, no father. Right. And while there are a lot of absentee fathers, it doesn't take into account all the strong Black men that are raising somebody else's kids. You know what I'm saying? So, like, the studies don't show those elements, and when you take those elements out, then that is a high number, but that number that they post is false. Right. We got some brothers that's not handling their business. We all know them. We all got some in our family. We all got some we all relative, friends, whatever. But there are a lot of Black men, and there's been a bunch of studies lately that have showed that Black men are more likely to take care of and be involved in their children's life than white people and
white men.
White men.
Fathers.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you hear that, they just show us as the poster boy. So, being Black Westchester, you probably won't see this anywhere else. We're going to be celebrating Black fatherhood in the June issue, and changing the narrative a little bit.
Great. Kudos.
And shout out to Kenny Carter. He's going to do an article. He has an organization called Faith, Fathers Alive in the Hood. So we're going to spotlight his organization, and he's also going to write something. So shout out to him. And all the other Black father organizations. When I was coming up and I was dealing with child support, Black fathers had no rights. My daughter will be 29 this year. There are a lot of organizations to help Black fathers because, sometimes the situation is not what they make it out to be. They
still don't really have a lot of rights as far as
but it's a lot more now than it was 29 years ago. Yeah. It was just like, the judge basically told me, shut up, and can I pay? And then it was going to send me to jail, and I was like, well, Dad, I can't pay if I'm in jail. He said, well, you ain't paid the last couple of months, so maybe you need some time. Like that was the whole that you couldn't say nothing in your defense. Why you got laid off? Nothing. But I couldn't make a case or nothing. Just like he told me, literally, shut up. So there was a lot less rights, and there was a lot less resources for a Black father to go to. Now they have organizations like Fatherhood, which helps fathers go back to college and update their skill set to make them more up to date in the school and teach them some of the things they need to know so they can be functioning. Those who want to, who could be functioning members of society. So shout out to them and all those organizations. But we still need a lot more.
Shout out.
And for all you punks that's not taking care of your kids, we need y'all to step up, put it up. So because there are a lot of y'all out there. So we're not gonna make it look like y'all don't exist, but y'all don't represent the majority of us though.
I wanted to circle back for a minute to Cynthia Turnquest-Jones' comment about the need for the Westchester County Board of Elections to update its voter list. And I wanted to just expand it a little bit. As our listeners should know, in the United States today, there's no way that you don't know that there's been a lot of discussion about the vulnerability of the U.S. election system in light of allegations that Russia launched a cyber attack on us. The Department of Homeland Security.
False news. I'm sorry. I'm doing my Trump impression. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. Or a Mayor Thomas impression.
Fake news.
But the Department of Homeland Security, if I'm not mistaken, has indicated that as many as 21 state voter registration systems were breached in some way. And I've always been curious as to whether or not New York State was included in that, and one of the reasons why, although I have not seen New York State mentioned by name, but one of the reasons why is because especially vulnerable are those election systems that rely on computer-based voting systems. And as many of you guys probably know, the last time you voted, that we are now using a electronic balloting system in Westchester County. There's been lots of questions raised as to whether or not the software and the vendors that provide the code for these systems have proper safeguards.
Oh.
And there were a couple of phishing scams when you get someone to respond to an email and then it kind of downloads malware onto your system and allows a hacker to get vital information, including passwords. I know that they use phishing schemes to gain access to some of the voting systems throughout the United States. And so although I just want to reiterate, if Commissioner Lafayette is still listening, I want to reiterate the current concern that I have, and I think many other people like Cynthia, but I'm sure you guys as well, that the Westchester County Board of Election needs to make a public announcement of the preparations that it's making to safeguard our election system for the upcoming November election. There's no doubt. There's been reports by all of the members of the intelligence community that Russia plans to continue its cyber attacks on our systems, and so we have been forewarned, and I want to know what we are doing to make sure that we don't have some sort of, meddling in voting here in Westchester County.
Real quick, shout to Shay Thomas and Barry Bookhart, who are just tuned in. Oh, and Charlie Cahill. But I wanted to also speak on, and we don't face this here in New York, but this is a nationwide problem. Voter disenfranchisement. There are states, first off, in New York State, if you have a felony, you can vote, because I keep sharing it as much as possible because I keep finding people that don't know. You can vote as long as you're not on parole or probation. If you're a misdemeanor, you can vote in jail. But if you, so a lot of people don't know that. But there are states, Florida being one of the main ones, where the percentage, and they talked about this, it really came up in the 2014 midterm elections. The percentage that the Republican candidate won by was smaller than the group of people that could not vote because they were felons. So not to say all these people would have voted, but if they were allowed to vote and they didn't vote for that candidate, there's a good chance that candidate wouldn't have won. And these candidates are in favor of those laws continuing. And in Florida, you cannot vote again unless the governor pardons you or so. I mean, you're a felon, you just can't vote again. There's a few other states like that. Some is after a certain amount of time and some things, but in New York, we are blessed that you can. Your rights reinstate, but you do have to register again. And I try to get that information out, and we were working on the Thomas campaign in 2015. I shared that with a lot of people, and that we were able to register who did not know that they could vote. They didn't know that they were eligible. Oh, I got a felony, I can't vote. So you're on probation or parole? No, you can vote. You just have to register. And we registered, I personally registered 105 people. Wow. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, and I keep the stack of sheets. Voter registrations come in a package of 100. I keep 100 stack at the house. So anybody see me, I always have voter registration cards. And I you can fill them out, and I will mail them in for you. You ain't got to worry about it. I'll take them down to the Board of Election myself, because we go there at least once a month to drop off papers. So, you know what I'm saying? So I will gladly and if you don't receive a card or some notification within a week or so afterwards, then you need to call why it wasn't why you haven't received anything. But voter disenfranchisement is something that plagues a lot of minorities, especially in states like Florida, and there's several other states, but that's like the one that I always remember, Florida. Because say like the person won by 10,000 votes, and there was like 50,000 people who couldn't vote because they had felonies. So like, you know what I'm saying? That's a great number of people that, you didn't even need that whole group of people. If half of them voted, you know what I'm saying, or a third of them voted, that person might not be in office. Yeah, so.
And listen, it has to be said very frankly and candidly that many of these voter suppression schemes, that you refer to were deliberately hatched by Republicans, members, Republican Party operatives, who are looking to find any little advantage they can to prevail in our electoral contest. And the reason I mention it is because Republican Party positions generally have been antithetical to the interests of African Americans and others, anyone who's poor, broken in society.
Which includes white people.
Includes white people.
A lot of poor white people who vote against their interests but they realize that these things don't have nothing to do with them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, these things hurt them as well, but they don't get it, though.
Got us all fucked up. Excuse me, I'm sorry, y'all. Outburst. But I mean, for that reason, it's very important that we take a closer interest in these things, because a lot of we're reaching a kind of a crossroads in this society, in terms of where we're going to go and whether we will remain true to our democratic traditions, the traditions that black people have relied on, especially heavily, in order to get the foot of the master off of our collective necks. And I think, and so we have a special interest in making sure a lot of the problems that have been plaguing our voting system as of late, whether it's outside meddling by Russian interference with the complicity of many Republicans, or whether it's Republican scheming to hire operatives to find a way to suppress the black vote.
Another thing, like in Georgia, I lived in Atlanta, that keeps a lot of minorities is ID. Like, you don't need an ID. Like, I just voted in the school board election. They didn't ask me for no ID. I just went in, they said my name, they asked my address, I told them, I signed the thing, and I voted. But in Georgia and other states, you need a state-issue ID, picture ID, and if you do not have one, you are not allowed to vote, even if you're registered. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, that helps keep, there are a group of minorities, not just black minorities, period, that just don't have proper ID. You know what I'm saying? And that keeps them from voting as well. And there's a couple other things, but those are the major ones. I do want to say that Brenda, now, while I have to look this up myself, and I will. Brenda said you can vote after a felony conviction if you're on probation or once you have completed parole. I thought it was if you had completed your probation or your parole. So she's saying you can vote even if you're on probation. So I will get that information and I will share it as often as possible. But she also put she put up the link to the voting rights, felon voting rights link. Felony voting rights. So you can click on it. And shout out to a couple more people tuned in. Caitlin Gleason, who we were speaking about earlier, who's hosting the New Flex pageant with Cynthia. And Bobby Lee just joined the conversation. So welcome.
I mean, it should be added that the consequences of, well, for one, it should be noted that the rules governing voting rights are set by the state. The state has considerable latitude.
Yeah, because it's state by state.
And so it might be state by, so it could be, it could be you're right in New York, but, Brenda's right in many other states.
But I'm saying, I was saying after probation or parole, she was saying even on probation, or you finish parole. So I just want to clarify that one thing.
Right.
But everything I spoke about Florida and the other states were
how timely.
Hey, we have just entered the building. Congressional candidate Derrickson Lawrence has just entered the building. He's been on the show before. So welcome. And he's going to talk about an event that he has tomorrow. Before he gets started, though, I do want to, because Rashad has been sitting here, I don't know if you want to talk about the last article you did or whatever financial advice that you have or how finances play a part in any of the stuff we were just talking about. So
yeah, I don't even remember the last article that I actually wrote. But, yeah, of course, finances is the most important part, in my opinion, as far as all the stuff that we talk about. I always say all the time, and we could march and demonstrate and do all the stuff to try to reform the laws, but money talks at the end of the day.
Right.
And that's a universal language that everybody speaks.
Right.
No matter where you're from.
Right.
Everybody understands currency.
Let me specifically ask you a question. I see and I'm hearing, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, maybe not just a brand new thing. A lot of people are transferring things into diamonds and stuff like that. Like, is that because that currency is good everywhere, and is that something that's a popular thing or something? Or
I mean, precious metals, of course, have always been around. As far as gold. Gold has kind of made a resurgence, but it's still, in my opinion, it's not a currency.
Right.
It's more like a store of value. So yeah, I don't really know too much. I don't think diamonds are too popular, but gold is always kind of something that you might hear on the radio, you might hear on TV. Because the theory is that it's actually worth something. Like the U.S. dollar isn't really worth anything.
So is that why all these places that keep seeing all these commercials, especially in the hood, where you get money for your gold, they trying to get all your gold from you? Is that
that's why people just need money and they got a pawn.
But I'm saying
they made bad decisions and brought jewelry.
But I always see these places offering.
Okay.
Oh, get money for your gold.
Yeah. I mean, gold. Like I said, gold is not a bad. Gold is always smart to have gold. Like in India is real. Gold is huge in India. Mm-hmm. They value gold a lot. And different parts of the world value gold more than other parts, but everywhere pretty much values gold. And it's a natural resource. So even though it really has no real usage for the most part, it's tangible. Like I said, the dollar used to be backed by gold, but it's not backed by gold anymore. So it's just backed by the faith of the government, which is why people, there's like cryptocurrency now and stuff like that, where people are trying to move away from actually physical dollars because they're saying that doesn't really have any value.
Now, the other thing I'm hearing a lot about these days, and people keep telling me I need to get into it, is this whole Bitcoin thing.
Yeah.
Is that? Some people say it's a scam. Some people say it's legit. Some people say they made a lot of money. Some people have been putting money into it and they ain't making nothing. So, is that a?
Yeah, it's interesting. Bitcoin is definitely not a scam.
Okay.
But it's not something that I don't know if it'll be around for too much longer. It could be the new dollar. Who knows? But it's a cryptocurrency without getting too complicated. It's a digital currency. It's actually not actually used as a currency right now because it's very volatile. Okay. So it's kind of hard to use something that's volatile as currency. Like a dollar's worth a dollar. If you get your hair cut and the barber charges you $20, that you're going to have $20 in your pocket to pay him. Right. But Bitcoin, the price goes up and down. It might be 9,000 today, and then it might be 8,000 tomorrow. Right. So it's kind of hard to use that as currency because the value fluctuates so much. So it'll have to even out at one point for it to be taken serious as a real global currency. But there's definitely real technology behind not just Bitcoin, all of the cryptocurrencies. It's called the blockchain technology. And so, yeah, it's something that people should do their research on. Like any investment, you just don't jump into it just because your friend made money. Because, I mean, this year has actually been a bad year for cryptocurrency. Last year was a great year as far as a lot of people did make a lot of money. Like that actually did happen.
Right. Could it be a wave of the future? Or
it definitely could be. But then, it could fall apart as well. So, it's highly speculative, and it's something that really nobody knows. But it's something that you should be educated on.
So for somebody who has a lot of disposable dollars, but I came up with some, a little extra, and I want to put it up for something. I want to put it into something. What would be like your best top 3 things that you should do with that?
I mean, well, I'm a big fan of, buying things that you use. So like stock in companies that you use already. Mm-hmm. So, a lot of times people know about the stock market, but they don't really know how to invest in the stock market. So the easiest way is what Warren Buffett really does, and he uses companies that he buys companies that he uses. Okay. So if you buy Nike, you should invest in Nike. If you buy Adidas, you should invest in Adidas. You buy Starbucks, you should. If you're on Instagram all day, Facebook owns Instagram, so you might want to invest in Facebook. You don't have to be a genius to figure those things out. Right. And then, of course, land, real estate is always a good idea. It's always a good idea to buy real estate because that's another tangible asset. And they're not making any more land. So if you can get your hands on real estate, then those would be like my top 2 things. And then if you want to become a little bit more exotic and buy gold or buy cryptocurrency, then like even with real estate and stocks, you should do your research. But even in doing your research, it's important because that's a form of education, and most people just aren't educated on money at all.
So they got these people that get their money and lose all their life savings, and they They didn't look into. They just giving their money. To
Yeah, I mean, it happens with everybody. It happens with the athletes and entertainers on a very high scale, but it happens with regular, ordinary people too. Like, people live paycheck to paycheck. That's because, for the most part, they make bad decisions with their money. So everybody pretty much is misinformed when it comes to money, just not properly educated because they don't teach it in school.
Right.
So, it's not really even your fault, but you have to educate yourself at some point, or you'll just continue to, make bad decisions and make bad choices. So, yeah, all of that, comes down to just educating yourself and not just taking what somebody has to say. You might, take in the information and process it, but you should always research and learn for yourself. And you make mistakes along the way, but those mistakes will help you grow.
Absolutely. Now, if you're going to stick around for a while, I'm going to let him talk about his event he got tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure.
So we have congressional candidate Derrickson Lawrence, who's running for Congress, the congressional 16 district seat. Which is currently
16th congressional district.
Which is currently held by Congressman Elliot Engel, who's rerunning, and another Democrat who's running I think, is Jonathan Lewis. So you're going up against both of them.
That is correct, yes.
Why don't we?
Yeah. Pull your mic just a little bit.
Okay.
And thank you, Brenda L. Crump, who has just posted the link to your Facebook page for anybody who needs it. Derrickson for Congress.
Great. Shout out to
is that the one you're still using, right? Yeah, Brenda posts everything.
Wow.
Anything
okay.
we talk about,
Yeah.
she posts a link to it. If I bring up a book,
Yeah.
she'll post a book where you can find a link to, the stories we told about the arrest and all those. She put the stories up and all.
I'll tell you, she's probably one of the hardest working persons out there. Community spirit, and has been doing this for some time. So very consistent, and I appreciate that.
And I just want to welcome a few more people: Jeff Monroe, faithful
Jeff.
listener; Gail Baxter, faithful listener; Arthur Cheddar Caviar. I hope I pronounced that right. Sorry if I didn't. And Michael Crittenden, Crittenden. So if I pronounced your name wrong, I apologize too. But thank you for listening. But go ahead. So I understand, going straight into it. First off, you have something going on tomorrow.
Yes, I
in
do.
New Rochelle. So would you like to tell everybody what that is?
Certainly. Well, we're 5 weeks away from the election, June 26, 2018. And we thought we would hold a rally to bring our diverse district together, both literally and figuratively. And so we're doing so, bringing the faith-based community together.
Just pull your mic a little bit closer to you.
Faith-based community together.
There we go.
With obviously, different colors, different ethnicities, different income levels, different sexual orientation, because that's who we are as Democrats. And so I believe that in the richest country in the world, we can bring others along, and we're going to kick it off tomorrow.
One of the reasons I know you wanted to come on today before the event, but one of the reasons I wanted to have you on with Congressman Engel and the other candidate, Jonathan Lewis, spending ridiculous amounts of money. There are people that don't know there's a third candidate in the race. And at least we people before politics, we try to present all the candidates and let everybody know who's running. So there are people that don't know that you're running in this race.
That may be the case, and again, even with 5 weeks left, we can certainly make our case, and we're going to do so. We're not using the means that our competitors have, because we don't believe that those with the money should drown out the voices of the many, and we are trying different ways of getting there. So social media is one that is not going to cost a lot, and so we're pursuing that. We're doing the trains in the mornings. We're pressing the flash and various other types of advertising.
And how do you combat, as our brother over here spoke, money does rule the world. Like, cash rules everything around me. Unfortunately, we keep hearing about people buying elections and, all the money they're spending and stuff like that.
Correct.
Does that concern you that, I got mailers in the house. I've got several from Engel and several from Jonathan.
Correct.
So, even people getting stuff at their house and they're not paying attention. That's all they're getting. How do you overcome? I mean, do you see that as an obstacle or?
Well, not necessarily. I think when you look at what you've gotten just recently, the 2 or 3 or 4 mailers, if you study them, what you're seeing is these guys are going after each other. They're back and forth.
But I say
and they're not talking about issues. Mm-hmm. And so when you look at what I'm doing in terms of my platform, what we're about to unveil tomorrow is our 4-point strategy. It's a strategy that's already delivering results in our community. And so how I'm differentiating myself here is really lifting and improving lives in the 16th Congressional District. None or neither one of those two can actually say that in terms of solving substantive problems in our district.
And also, some people say it's time for change as far as the congressman is concerned. And I know with every candidate, one of the things that's always asked me, where did they come from? What have they done before? What have they run? And you haven't held the office before. Do you see that as an obstacle or?
No, I don't believe that's the case. Look, what are you concerned about in terms of what's happening in our community? Let me just set the stage for you. One of the major threats to us right now is not gerrymandering, but can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's the whole issue of gentrification.
Which is Mount Vernon is facing.
We saw it in Brooklyn. We saw it in Harlem, and we're seeing it right now in our shores. Mm-hmm. And to the extent that we can ride the crest of that wave, all right, or get rolled under it, it's predicated on leadership. Mm-hmm. When you look at our candidates today, is anybody talking about that? No. They're not talking about the issues that really matter to us. And when you look at my 4-point platform, I start with issues like jobs and upward mobility. And I'll go through the 4 of them very quickly, but let's just stay on jobs and upward mobility for just a second. I have a methodology that I've been using in the community for the last 3.5, 4 years. And it's working with institutions within the community. It's working with people. It's putting a process in place to taking both of those and really working through the issues and coming out with something tangible. Here's what I mean by that. Westchester Community College as an institution, the Chambers of Commerce from Mount Vernon, Yonkers, and the Bronx started what was a incubator and funding that so that small businesses can grow, graduate, and flourish. And ensuring that the monies that I invested in that process went to students, WCC. And in the end, what happened was 7 months after I invested in that company, the idea was to follow up to see where the money went. And the response I got back was, Mr. Lawrence, we didn't have to spend that money. Why? Because the students felt that it was more important to get the experience than take those stipends. So it was so competitive, they wanted to get the experience. Now, 8 months later, they were able to write off that experience to go into higher paying jobs. That's going from point A to point B. And what I am going to do here as the congressman is to leverage that and scale that in other communities. That's why I'm not concerned about the issue of holding elective office prior to running, because I'm delivering results in the community. So that is one area. The others, you probably, I'm sure, have heard of issues of education. Actually closing the achievement gap. I've accomplished that right here in our community. Healthcare, and of course the issues of guns and what I would say is losing or finding a way to save lives. So I believe I have a 4-point strategy that's actually strong, that holds sway in the community, and I believe it's the issue of just getting the word out.
Somebody brought up One thing, actually a couple of things, but one, that you were the 2016 People's Choice congressional candidate who sought the election for the U.S. House to represent the 16th congressional district. Talk about that. I know that you weren't in the primary last time, and
Yeah, essentially what happened was I began the process the same way I'm doing today, but didn't make it on the ballot. Thought that running as a third-party candidate would actually make a difference, and it was clear in a presidential year, running as a third-party candidate really doesn't cut it, simply because as an independent, the vote count is capped, as you saw, for every other independent candidate who ran then. And secondly, what we had here was a Hillary versus Clinton run. And so everybody, this
Hillary
was
versus Trump.
It was coattail. Trump, yeah.
Mhm.
Hillary versus Trump.
Mhm.
And so everybody, the issue here is Democrats were going on row A, and no one really wanted to go down that list. And so that was the challenge we had. But this year it's a very different issue.
well, one thing that was impressive. How many votes did you had to get to run? You got a nice amount of signatures or something.
Yeah, well, back then we got about 5,500 signatures to run as an independent. This time around, we didn't have to scale that high, but turned in a number shy of 3,000.
Now, how many do you have to have? Do you have to hand in?
1,500.
15. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, the exact number is 1,250, but I
Okay.
use that as a number.
Okay. Now, someone bridged the concern that actually the person says that you come around election years, but you spend most of your time in another state, that you actually live in Maryland. Is there any...
Wow, that's news to me.
Okay. Well, I wanted to give you a chance to address
Yeah.
that. 'Cause
Yeah, I live obviously in Mount Vernon. What I have done over the years is, as an entrepreneur and a business person, I run a couple of businesses, and so I do travel extensively. But my abode, the place I live, the place that I vote, everything else is right here in Mount Vernon. So it's initially my business started in Florida. But we've consolidated it here. That's our national business. The other business that I run with my wife, we have a location in Singapore. So we both travel. We go back and forth, but right here in Mount Vernon.
I just want to change the lane real quick. Being an old hip-hop head that I am, you have a famous brother who's a hip-hop producer that most people do not know that this cat is your brother.
Oh,
Yes,
is that the
is
case?
true. Yes, my younger brother Ron, he goes under the monikers Ron Amen Ron Lawrence, and actually lived with me.
He's done
back.
Biggie. He's done Mad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he got notoriety when he produced "Hypnotized" for Biggie Smalls, and was one of Puff Daddy's hitmen, and so went on to do the list is just endless in terms of from Mary J. Blige to Rakim to a slew of great artists, culminating in Grammy for none other than Aretha Franklin.
Wow.
So
wow, that's
So,
tremendous range.
Yes. So Luther Vandross, the whole works he's been able to do, and
Cause when you told me, I was like, yo, that's your brother? Like, yeah, I was shocked. Like, he's worked with a lot of people. I know him through reputation. I've only met him a couple of times, but I know him, through hip hop circles, and he's a very sought after producer. Yeah.
I want to.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, while some people have expressed concern that a lack of experience in elective office may be a hindrance to your performance in Congress, I wanted, as our audience members would well agree, a lot of the skills that we obtain from jobs in the private sector as independent business people are transferable skills that would make someone well suited for any kind of executive leadership position. And so in that vein, I wanted to ask you to describe for our audience members, firstly, what kind of business you own and operate, and how maybe are some of the skills you experience in the private sector transferable to the challenges that you think Westchester County in particular and the 16th Congressional District in particular face?
Well, certainly. And I'm also going to address the issue of elective office experience because I think we have a sort of a full sense of what's required here. First of all, I started after school, right after school, as an engineer. So I'm an electrical engineer. And my first job was with Hughes Aircraft as a missile systems design engineer. So I was the rocket scientist guy in Hughes Aircraft. Before I changed a little bit to go into Wall Street, the MBA, and worked with KPMG. That's one of those big big four firms, and then Gartner Group, managing consulting. So the experience that I've had is really leading CEOs and helping them make business decisions to grow their companies. How that translates into elective office and working as a public official. I can share with you one experience that I had just recently where Mayor Davis asked me to take on a role on behalf of the city of Mount Vernon 2 years ago, dealing with another municipality, Pelham Manor. And it was a deal where I'm not going to get into the specifics of the deal except to say that I was the lead negotiator on behalf of the city, where the result of the deal, I took something that was, I think we were getting a number, maybe it was $50,000 a year on the deal, and actually increased the value of that deal 300%. I was later charged with taking the results of that and rewriting that agreement. So I wrote the intermunicipal agreement. Then I had to follow through with working with putting in the home rule deal and showing that it passed both municipalities at the local level, and then writing the bill that got picked up in the Senate and passed the Senate. So all of these are elected official skills. So city council folks don't get a chance to negotiate deals on that level, and don't get to write actually bills that gets taken up in the Senate and the Assembly. So I've been doing the work as a private citizen. I may not have been elected to do it, but actually been doing the work, and I can give you 3 or 4 other examples where I've done just that.
Okay. And I have to say that it seems like you pulled off a very difficult balancing act trying to satisfy the requirements of home rule, that municipalities maintain their independence on the one hand, but also on the other hand, a intermunicipal agreement that allows municipalities to pool their resources.
Correct.
Which is, I mean, like I said, it's a difficult balancing act. I haven't done that.
Yeah.
So hats off to you.
Let me offer one more, because I think it's important for folks to hear this when they say, well, you haven't held elected official. As a private citizen, the issue of health care is important to all of us. And we see what's happening in Washington where you can't get anything done, right? And the fact that the ACA was actually hammered to the point where it's clearly falling apart. As a private citizen, but also as the chair of the Westchester County Homeowners Coalition, I was able to call the leaders of the state organization, the New York State Hospital Alliance and the New York State Medical Society, and bring those two groups together to talk about what can we do in absence of what's happening in Washington to affect health care. And through a number of meetings, one of the things we learned was sometimes the copay is more than the price. It was a unique kind of thing we stumbled on, but it was the issue of clawback. What happens is you will have a copay of $40, But for generic drugs, your actual price is actually $5. And so somebody's clawing back the additional 35. I believe no matter how infrequent it happens, it's wrong. And there ought to be an outrage here. And so what happened was through iterative agreements, we were able to come with a solution to do that. It was a bill. Here it was again. I happen to now craft a bill that a gentleman by the name of George Latimer carried in the Senate, and a gentleman by the name of what's our assemblyman locally, Gabby Pratlow, carried. And so those again were skills to bring groups together, go through what I call building consensus, and then delivering results, something tangible where it does impact folks. So the real net of that bill was to mandate that pharmaceutical companies disclose the price before the prescription is filled. Those are tangible gains for a private citizen. And that's, I'd say, public official type of experience, public.
Right, and I just have to say, one of the main goals of the ACA was to try to bring greater transparency to our medical markets. And so this is one of the ways that Big Pharma has continued to really exploit the American public, is to overcharge us tremendously.
Correct.
By a lot of these drugs that if you bought the generic equivalent, you'd be saving an immense amount of money. So this is just really a profit-making ploy.
It is in so many ways. The market right now, I think one of the things if you got into the pharmaceutical space, you'll learn that right now, even for something like Medicare, the federal government is not allowed to negotiate with the drug companies. And you scratch your head and say, wait a minute, is that possible? That is the case. And so I believe there are some things we can do through our state to change that. And so one of the things I have called for is for New York State to have its own prescription dispensary, right? Its drug dispensary, to compete with the status quo, because that's the way you're able to bring prices down. You're not going to do it by mandating that price numbers change. If you insert competition in the mix, if New York State has its own dispensary, it now has the opportunity to pool resources to get things to buy at a higher rate, but also to compete with the status quo that would lower prices. So again, it's about being a problem solver. It's about looking, when you talk about my business experience and how that helps and translates, it's being a problem solver, being able to look at things both tactically and strategically. It's about bringing people together. It's about leadership. It's about solving problems that work for the people.
Now, you mentioned, I don't know, you said being part of the, was that the homeowners?
Westchester County Homeowners Coalition.
Now, the only thing I know much about them, I think they, in every major election in Mount Vernon, they hold debates. They sponsor or hold debates at Wartburg. Or
Correct. We typically use the venue of the Wartburg as the place to hold our debates. Yes.
Now, what else does the organization do? What other than host debates? What is the organization about?
Essentially, it's the focus and the mission of the organization is to work on behalf of homeowners, essentially, and the key issues that the membership brings. So it's they talk about taxes as one of the major issues. That's one of the reasons it was formed. Mount Vernon, not Mount Vernon, but Westchester is the highest tax county in the nation. And homeowners are typically concerned about the amount of taxes they pay, and primarily in Mount Vernon is one example, not getting the benefits for it. Today, it's clearly something that's on the radar of homeowners, because from a federal standpoint, we had a tax bill passed by our president, which has taken away the ability to deduct portion of those taxes, property taxes, in excess of 10 grand. So there was a time where people in the in the New Rochelle, Pelham, Mamaroneck, Scarsdale were paying high taxes and were able to deduct that. Today, we've got a real issue that we need to solve. So when we talk about leadership, you have a congressman today, those issues are not on his radar. Maybe today that I'm raising it, somebody will respond. But right now, having been in office for some time, these were not priorities for him. And, you know, when you take all these issues together, that's why it's so difficult to remain on the sidelines.
Let me ask you a question. So is there, I know you said about 5 weeks, has there been or will there be a debate between the three of y'all where you will actually be in the room with the three of them, with the two of them, and y'all actually debate?
Yes, we are looking forward to that. There is something scheduled at Cyril Lawrence on June 5th, 7 p.m. I don't have the exact room, but that's on, and we're looking forward to that.
Because that's also when you have a lesser-known candidate that's more issue-driven, as you speak about, they get a chance to present themselves to a
Correct.
larger audience.
Right.
When you see them one-on-one, I mean, well, engaging with, and if you can make points that, you could come out looking, good to a lot of people.
Well, look, I believe I'm the when you look at all three candidates, solving problems in the district, improving lives, those two issues are what I believe voters care most about. Right now, our sitting congressman will show that he has, I believe you saw the last post of 101 reasons. So he's doing some of the surface things, but he's not really solving the substantive problems of our district, which is what we need. In the insane world of Trump, I believe we deserve and we require a very different type of congressional leadership, and that's what I'm offering with my candidacy.
So why don't we extend the debate a little, since you mentioned the issue of foreign policy, why don't we extend the debate a little, the discussion a little bit to highlight some of the ways in which your foreign policy positions differ from that of the current incumbent, Congressman Elliot Engels?
Certainly. We differ in a number of ways. I would say to you that our congressman has been someone who has been focused on intervention for some time. So he's been wrong on Afghanistan, he's been wrong on Iraq, he's been wrong on Libya, to disastrous consequences. Trillions of dollars, thousands of lives, and chaos in the Middle East. I think when you look at a candidate, an incumbent like this, who even after the debacle of those three wars that I mentioned, after 10 years after that, we had an opportunity to look at the issue of the Iran deal. And our incumbent voted against our sitting Democratic president, Barack Obama. So here is someone who's being looked at least he's talking about being looked at for the next position up should the Democrats win the House. I think that would be a travesty because his record shows that he's voting against our interests. And given more power, that's exactly what he's going to continue to do. So I believe he's exactly the wrong choice to be in that position.
Well, I see the district, it covers a vast area. Of course, you got your Mount Vernon, Rochelle, Pelham, Yonkers, but you have some more affluent areas like Scarsdale and Harrison and Rye. I didn't know it goes that far. Sometimes candidates, let's put it this way. I know some of the Mount Vernon candidates I talked to before, they cater to the people that vote, a certain block of people. Those people always vote. They're going to put up money. You know what I'm saying? Like that. You have some of these more affluent areas that probably spend a lot of money, and that's who candidates listen to. So how do you compete against that?
I'm not sure I'm following the basis of the question.
You follow me, Bob? You might reword it.
I'm going to let you reword
Okay.
your own question.
Okay, so you said some of the other candidates are not concerned about that. But
I'm not concerned about what?
With the last question you just, some of the issues you talked about. But those are not issues in areas like Scarsdale and Rye
Like
and some of the more
gentrification
affluent.
and stuff like that.
Right. It's more affluent neighborhoods that this district already also covers.
Yeah.
And again, cash is king. Candidates tend to listen to those areas that put the most money in their campaigns. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, and so how do you compete against that? But that's their base. You know what I'm saying? Those areas like that.
Well, yeah. I made the point earlier. When you look at the Scarsdales, Pelham, Rye, those are the residents that have been paying these high taxes today, and now they don't have the ability to deduct anything beyond 10 grand. That's a problem that needs to be solved, and
that's somebody with money would care about.
correct. That's an issue that is not on neither one of our the congressmen or the other challengers are talking about. And so our incumbent has not solved any substantive issues in our district. I don't believe he's got the I don't know how best to put it, but we can only go by his record. And so this is one of those issues that if he's not held accountable, he's going to go right past that. So the other theme that we're pushing is, where's the accountability? If somebody's in office for this long, you've got to look at what problems has he solved? What bills, what legislation has he passed that has helped our district? If you can answer that question for me in either one of those categories, that would be something to sit up and listen to. But we can't find one.
And also supporting that, I'm reading here that redistricting, before the redistricting, after the 2010 census, it found that 38% of the constituents in the New York 16th district lived at or below the poverty level, the highest poverty rate at any congressional district. These neighborhoods have been largely reassigned to the 15th district after redistricting. Redistricting is that's going on everywhere. Again, trying to get some of the poor people out of the district and deal with more of the more affluent people.
Correct, but when you look at the district, let's talk about what the district includes.
Well, it includes the Bronx.
It's Co-op City, yeah. It's Edenwald. It's Wakefield. It's Mount Vernon. It's Yonkers. It's So what we have here, we may have affluence in the larger sections, right, the northern part of it, but we have deep pockets of poverty, and sadly, what they have in common: high crime, high unemployment, underperforming schools. Those issues need to be addressed. And that is how I differentiate my candidacy from the record of the incumbent.
Okay. Cynthia Turnquest Jones said, "Hey, I support Lawrence."
I accept that.
We got to get you out on the campaign trail, girl.
So, and before I forget, for people that are hearing you again, some people didn't know you were running. You always, when you talk to an audience, you're always talking to somebody for the first time. How would I, the listener, get in touch with you, find out more about your campaign, reach out,
Certainly. Well, the first thing we would ask you to do is go to DerricksonKforCongress.com and listen to the testimonials of the 4-point strategy for improving lives in the district. Now, the testimonials are not endorsement of my candidacy per se, but there are other people talking about the work that I've done to improve lives in the community. And they're powerful because we have seen results, and we're seeing results of what we've done. And what we're attempting to do with this candidacy is bringing dollars back to scale them so that we can turn the tide. And tomorrow would be a perfect opportunity to come out and hear some of those details at Bethesda Baptist Church, 71 Lincoln Avenue, in New Rochelle, where we have the churches on that corridor. It's St. Catherine's AME, that's Reverend Nobles. It's Bethesda Baptist, Reverend Alan Paul Weaver Jr. and Reverend Alan Paul Weaver, number 3. And then, of course, we have Shiloh Baptist, Reverend DeQuincy Hentz. And so several others from Bronx, actually Bronxville, we have a Baptist church in Bronxville that's participating. So there are a whole list of names that I don't remember the names off the cuff, but they are all going to be participating, and I'm excited about it, and welcome anyone who's listening to come on down tomorrow at about 6:15 before we get started.
Okay. Social media, anybody social media? Any social media for them to reach out to you? Or?
Well, yes, you can. We have, if you go to, we do have a Derrickson K for Congress page, Facebook page as well, so that would be the social media arm of that.
Okay. You look like you had a question there.
Yeah. Derrickson, I know that from reading your personal biography that you trace your political lineage back to some of the most esteemed figures in African-American contemporary politics. Familiar with the general worldview and policy positions of the community, I'm very excited that someone would present themselves as the standard bearer for the progressive black tradition, and I wanted to know if you could perhaps tell some of our audience members who may not be able to see the immediate connection between American foreign policy and the kind of domestic challenges that we continue to face here at home, especially the problem of deeply entrenched poverty, if you could make a case for us how decisions about foreign policy at the congressional level could negatively, adversely impact our economic standing here at home.
All right. Well, let me answer the first part of your question, and then I'll go into the other. In terms of individuals or going back to influence, I have something framed on my wall, and the information that's on there, the inscription says, "Are you in it? Are you in a struggle for the duration?"
Right.
Or was the term that was used, essay into mayoral politics, a one-night stand? And those words were written by none other than a civil rights activist and actor, Ossie Davis. Ossie Davis had endorsed my candidacy for mayor back in 1994, and we had developed a relationship over the years. So he would always come back and talk to me about what am I doing, and the fact that I could actually get more accomplished without a title, and he was really showed me how to get some of those things down. So the first story I'll tell you is that there was one initiative that was affecting us in the community back in the 2000 range. It had to do with a host of crimes related to hate crimes. We had an issue in Queens. We had cross burnings. We had swastikas in Westchester. And so I called on him to help me to develop a public service announcement. That was going into 2000. We developed it, a public service announcement. Part of the commercial was filmed in my home. We were able to do another piece with the Journal News. We were able to do something with WVOX. And so the long story here is it involved B'nai B'rith and the Anti-Defamation League. Lots of folks together. That was 1999. And in 2000, a year later, we were able to pass the first hate crimes law in New York State. For me, it was an eye-opener that we actually played a role in getting something like that done. While we didn't have a hand in writing legislation, we had a hand in promoting that issue and bringing it to a head. And so it told me that, look, you can have an impact even if you're not elected by getting things done. And that has been the sort of the impetus and drive for me doing a lot of the things that I've done as a private citizen. So I certainly believe that we can get things done by looking at different perspectives. So the other part of your question was, how do you link
foreign policy to some of the domestic challenges we face?
Okay.
Domestic economic challenges.
Correct. So the foreign policy that I see that there is a link is, we have challenges with human rights today. Mm-hmm. And we tend to look at that as our own secular issue. Most recently, I put out a piece on what happened in Gaza, and I said that was wrong because I felt human rights is a major issue for us to stand up to both here and abroad. Injustice as anywhere, as our Martin Luther King would say, is a threat to justice everywhere.
Let me interrupt you. You're specifically referring to the forcible repression by the Israeli Defense Force of the protests that took place in Gaza.
That's correct. Correct. So you're asking me to make the link here, and I'm certainly going there. There are always risks when you speak out and on issues like these, but I felt it important if we are going to take a stand locally or nationally within our country, and we see something happening elsewhere, as someone who's vying for congressional leadership, I ought to be speaking out about those issues as well. So this is an area where you can actually link the two. Oppression over there is no different than oppression here, and we have to take our cues by standing up on principle and finding ways, I think, to working hard at bringing peace, working hard at solving those issues through diplomacy, rather than ramping up the war machines and what's happening, both in terms of the cost of developing those weaponry, which is taking away from our domestic solution.
So as we come to the close and end of the show, I want to give you a chance briefly to any last words, and then I want to let Rashad give us any financial tips on our way out the door. So any last words?
Well, look, I think tomorrow we start the process on getting out the vote, but essentially supporting my candidacy brings us, I think, one step closer to jobs and upward mobility, one step closer to not only safe schools, but higher performing schools, one step closer to the issues of affordable health care and ensuring that seniors can live their life out in dignity, and one step closer to lifting the economy for all. That's what I stand for. That's what the four proof of concepts actually do. And I ask folks to stay tuned and looking forward to getting their support on 2A, June 26, 2018.
Absolutely. Now, shifting it real quick, like I said, we're coming to the end of the show, so I want to end the show with any financial tips. And before I do, Cynthia said for me to ask you your lotto picks, please.
I don't play lotto. I don't know. Once again, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to come up here. I come up here every couple of months, and then I write the articles every month. I make sure I gotta give them to you before the deadline. Right. But I just think the biggest thing is just education. I can't stress that enough. I don't know if you know, but I actually teach a class.
Okay, I didn't know.
Yeah, I teach a class to rising 8th graders.
Okay,
financial literacy. I think that's actually something that should be in every school district.
Financial literacy. That's something that they
I don't know if that's a political action or how that actually gets implemented in the school district curriculum, but I think that's very important. So
I think you gotta go through the board of education and and then some of them are private, except for like Yonkers, that's run by the city.
Yeah. But Actually, it's not because it's the Board of Education, but the Board of Education's hands are kind of tied a lot of times because they have Common Core, so they have to teach. I don't know who dictates Common Core. I don't know how that actually. Right. But in any event, yeah, education is important. Any type of investment that you do. Another thing I just thought about when you asked me about the Bitcoin, the two biggest questions that I get right now is Bitcoin and marijuana stocks. Mm-hmm. So we talked about Bitcoin, but marijuana stocks, it goes back to just educating yourself because it's kind of tricky on a political landscape as far as how marijuana is treated. Like some states are pushing it to be legalized. So it is legal in a few states, but it's still illegal on a federal level.
Right.
And, the new administration is really, cracking down on that, and it looks like they don't really want to see that prosper. So I say that to say, you should be cautious with any type of investment, but especially with something like that is still kind of 50-50 of how it's going to play out. It could be just like, alcohol, or it could be the same way it is now 10 years from now, and it's still kind of like up in the air. So I just wanted to, because I think that kind of ties into the political conversation. Mm-hmm. I'd actually be interested to hear his opinion on it as far as legalization.
Well, he wrote an article on that.
Okay. Yeah, you pro or for? Oh, pro or against?
Legalization of marijuana.
Legalization of marijuana.
Well, the article that I wrote was about.
And I got to be real brief too,
decriminalization.
Okay. So recreational? Are you for recreational marijuana? Yes or no? No.
There's never a yes or no.
He's for decriminalization. That's his preferred term for a reason.
The issue here is we ought not to be locking up our folks for engaging in these practices. And you know all the yells already because I've heard you guys talk about it here, so I don't have to go through the details. But look, we need to be sane about the policies that we push, and some things ought to change at the congressional level, and that's what I'm trying to do, bring some sane policies into works that impact our lives.
Very political answer.
So anything else? You got a couple more minutes? Anything else you offer any?
Nah, like I said,
tip of the month.
The tip of the month. Pay yourself first. I always tell people to pay yourself first, no matter what. We make sure we pay everybody else, pay our bills, pay our rent, pay our mortgage, but it's important to put a portion of your money away into savings, into your 401k, into an investment, anywhere just to save. Don't spend all your money. Don't spend more money than you make. Common sense stuff like that, but you'll be surprised how most people just don't follow it. Like I said, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, but, if you employ these common principles, then you'll make out much better.
I got to say, I'm still on that, saving thing, but what I have been doing, and me and Damon, especially the first beginning of Black Westchester, was always reinvesting what we had back into Black Westchester. So now I'm actually getting to a point where I can actually start reinvesting in myself a little bit. Because, it was just like that's one of my reasons for my health problems. Like I was everything Black Westchester, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't thinking about me. So now reinvesting and, spending the extra money on what it takes to eat healthier. You know what I'm saying? Right, and it does, but I look at that as an investment in my health.
Exactly.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Exactly. So I'm just getting to that point. Yeah. I'm still not at the savings enough yet, but I
always say you got to be balanced. Like everything that you do, everything in life, you have to be balanced. So you can't, put all your money in investments. You can't put all your money into food. You have to be balanced. And the same thing with investing. You don't want to do anything that's a tremendous burden on yourself, but you start with a little bit, and then you build it up from there.
Right. Dr. Bob, any last words? Anything you want to add and you want to say and you want to inform everybody?
I want to express my thanks to both guests for sharing their time with us in the studio, and I specifically want to say to our audience members that I am very excited that Derrickson Lawrence has presented himself as a candidate in the upcoming congressional election, because more important than the question of who will win individually is will we have a candidate who can deliver a victory for our communities. And in order for us to do so, we have to have someone who is willing to think outside of the box. And my sense is I am not terribly, I don't know chapter and verse Congressman Elliot Engel's record, but my assessment is that he is a standard Democrat who is unwilling to think the emphasis that the Democratic Party has given on corporate-led development, who has been unwilling to rethink the role that the United States' involvement in international alliances, the way that it does damage very often to our economic standing and our political standing across the globe. And I'm very happy to be sitting next to a candidate who understands the history of these debates and is willing to take them on frontally. And so, I look forward to, hearing more from you out on the campaign hustings.
Great, I appreciate hearing that. Let me also just end with this, that I'm proud of the work that you and Black Westchester really, you're only, 2 years old, or what's it, 3 years old?
We're going on our 4-year anniversary next month.
Okay. But you've really made a splash since you've arrived on the scene. I'm proud of the platform that you've created, and certainly proud of the opportunities that you are providing to candidates like myself. So again, thank you for having me today, and thanks you for giving me the opportunity to get the word out on my candidacy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as we come to the close, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Brenda has shared links to everything, including the 6 or so articles that Rashad has done on blackwestchester.com. You can click on the link and you can go read all of them, and some of the other topics that we talked about. I want to bring up, we have something coming up. The Library Square Forum is coming up. They're having a forum. I think everybody should go check that out and see what that's about. Because there's a lot of, I'm getting a lot of people are for it. A lot of people are against it. A lot of people don't know what it is.
What is it?
Library Square is a new development that they're trying to build in Mount Vernon. There's some Black developers trying to do something on the south side. I know Bob got a chance to meet one of the developers the other night, and
I was intrigued by many of the elements of their proposal, and I don't think it needs to be dismissed out of hand before having adequate review. All I can say is for myself, was unaware of many of the details, and so I'd urge folks to come out and all to the forum and get a fuller presentation.
So they're having a forum at the Dole Center, 260 South 6th Avenue in Mount Vernon, Thursday, May 24th at 6:45. And the developers will be there with a presentation about what it's about. And I did write an article highlighting some of the services, and the reason I did it is because once I found out some of the services they were offering, I didn't know before I did the article. And I'm not saying I know everything, but if I didn't know, I could tell you a whole lot of people don't know. You know what I'm saying? So I think like I said, there's people against it, there's people for it. It entails whether the selling of the YMCA building, which a lot of people are fighting. The Y has left Mount Vernon. It's just a building. The Y is not coming back to Mount Vernon. They're trying to run out of White Plains now, and a few other places. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add that one of the most exciting features of the proposal was set aside specifically to foster the growth of Mount Vernon's organic artistic community.
Yes.
There have been a lot of discussions by urban planners recently about the importance of the creative community as a kind of catalyst for healthy, balanced growth of municipalities. And that is actually consistent with the master plan that I think former Mayor Young put forward. I read it in its entirety a couple of years ago, but I'm pretty sure that one of the components that they called for was housing programs that look to support our creative community. And in that sense, I was very excited to hear more. And so I'd urge everyone to go out and, if you have some time, listen.
So we're going to go. I know Black Westchester will be there that night. We're going to stream it live, working with them on their Facebook page, and of course it'll be on one of our pages too. So I just say, it's one of them things. I'm not telling you to support it or not support it, but it's one of them things you should check out for yourself. Some Black developers from the neighborhood, and they're trying to do something, and they're getting pushback from the city council, particularly some of the new members of the city council. So they decided to take their case to the public and present their case to the public and let the public know what it is they're trying to do. And I did write in my article, just the elected officials, they work for you and not the other way around. And in many other affluent neighborhoods, the residents tell the elected officials what they want and don't want in their community. And some of our communities, we allow the elected officials tell us what they're going to give us in our community. And you decide, you have the right to decide as a taxpayer what you want and don't want in your community. So if you see something that you like and you're for this, you need to go then let your elected officials know that you are for this. And if you're not, and that goes with any other development that you're not feeling that's going on, you need to let your elected officials, we don't want that in our community. We don't want no more of that. And until we do that, we will never, our concerns will never be taken in consideration as what gets done in our own community. So I just want to throw that out there. Like I said, we're coming to the close of the show. We want to thank everybody who's tuned in. You are listening to Black Westchester presents the People Before Politics radio show every Sunday 6 to 8 on InTheMixRadio.com. Next week, Damon Jones will be back. Lorraine Lopez will probably be back. I think we're going to have that conversation that we had to push back from today with Jonathan Newton from the National Association Against Police Brutality on him and Damon. And he's also an attorney. He just graduated from law school, and they're going to be discussing the Cosby case, but from the legality, not whether he's innocent or guilty, but how they went about it and the whole legality of the case. They're going to have a long discussion of that. Comrade Muhammad was supposed to be here today. I think he's rescheduled. And Brother Jonathan will be on next week. So until then, thank you, Brenda posted the link from Library Square.
Thursday, May 26th from 6:45 to 9 p.m.
So I guess we'll be there.
At the Dole Center.
We'll be there. Friday we'll be at the White House, the White Plains Courthouse.
We will be there.
For Mayor Thomas's arraignment, 9:30, room 303. And next Saturday, next week is Labor Day, Memorial Day weekend. It's kind of like the unofficial beginning of the summer. So I'm looking forward to that. Next month is our going into our 4-year anniversary. This is the last week to advertise in the June 2018 issue, where we'll be celebrating Black Fatherhood and Black Music Month. So you still want to get an ad? You got this week to get your ads in. Until next week, peace.
22 million black citizens of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see